It's one thing when a sports radio caller grills your favorite team. That's almost tradition at this point. But when Jason Kelce, the beer-chugging, podcast-dominating, no BS Super Bowl champ, comes out and says your team might be in trouble, that's not noise, that's sirens. We're talking about a guy who's earned the right to speak candidly. He's not out here fishing for clicks or riling up Reddit for fun. When Jason Kelce speaks, there's weight behind it. And when he zeroed in on the Cleveland Browns quarterback situation, what he said out loud was exactly what fans had been whispering ever since training camp ended. You sure about this? That was the essence of it. Because somehow, the Browns, a team with playoff talent, a dominant defense, and zero time to waste, are opening their season with Joe Flacco under center. Yes, that Joe Flacco. The one who was practically halfway into retirement, the one no one saw coming, and nestled behind him, two rookies with high ceilings and barely any preseason reps to show for it. From the outside, it looks calm, business as usual. But inside the building, there are tremors. Kelce didn't just criticize, he exposed something bigger. Fear. Fear of the unknown. Fear of trusting the next generation. And now that the narrative's out, there's no stuffing it back in the locker, because Kelce didn't say this quietly on a sideline somewhere. He said it with a mic, on a national platform, with millions of people tuned in, players, fans, media execs, even ownership. And when a respected veteran publicly calls your team's direction into question, just days before kickoff, you better believe people are listening. So what's really going on in Cleveland? Why is Flacco starting? What's actually holding Shedeur and Dylan Gabriel back? And most importantly, did Jason Kelce just say the quiet part out loud? Let's get into it. Jason Kelce didn't come in swinging with cheap shots. He didn't rant. He didn't yell. What he did was worse, for the Browns anyway. He calmly pointed out a flaw so obvious, fans had been dancing around it for weeks. And that's why it hit so hard. He looked at the Browns' quarterback room, saw the name Joe Flacco penciled in at QB1, and gave a look that practically screamed, "Wait, seriously?" Keep in mind, this is a man who's seen championship rosters from the inside. He understands leadership, pressure, and how split-second decisions shape locker rooms. He speaks with a level of credibility most analysts only dream of. So when he questions a move like this, people don't just notice, they start questioning everything else too. It wasn't about disrespecting Flacco. Kelce made that clear. The guy's a legend in his own right. A Super Bowl MVP, a playoff-tested veteran, and someone who's been around so long he's played against players who are now coaches. But that's not the point. Kelce wasn't talking about legacy. He was talking about vision, because when your franchise is supposed to be pushing for a deep playoff run, and your plan involves a 39-year-old quarterback who hasn't taken a single preseason snap, people start doing the math, and it doesn't add up. The take wasn't wild, it was just brutally honest, and nothing makes NFL front offices panic more than honesty with a platform. Sources say Browns ownership was, let's just say, not thrilled by Kelce's choice of words. Allegedly, phones started ringing. Meetings started happening. The kind of fire drill behind the curtain energy that happens when someone in the media says what you hoped no one would notice. And what did Kelce really say that was so dangerous? He challenged the philosophy, not just the depth chart, but the thinking behind it. He looked past the names on the roster and asked the question fans and media had been too polite or too nervous to fully say out loud. Are the Browns already playing scared? That one line turned a quiet quarterback decision into a national conversation, and it's only just beginning. Let's be honest, if you had to script the quarterback room guaranteed to ignite drama, this might be it. On one side, you've got Joe Flacco, the living fossil, a guy who literally stopped throwing passes, almost became a broadcaster, and somehow found himself back in the league, leading a team loaded with young talent. Make no mistake, Flacco isn't trying to be the future, because he already knows he isn't. He's the Band-Aid, the fire extinguisher. the quarterback equivalent of putting duct tape over a leak and hoping no one notices. Behind him, that's where it gets interesting. Shedeur Sanders, the rookie with the bloodline, swagger, and viral throw highlights, is sitting on the bench. The hype isn't just PR. Watch the tape. The kid's accurate, composed, built for the bright lights. And then there's Dylan Gabriel, the steady workhorse who's quietly impressed everyone behind the scenes. He doesn't have the Sanders name, but his game, rock solid. So let's break this down. You've got a 39-year-old quarterback who didn't take a single preseason snap, a media-savvy young phenom with natural leadership, a disciplined, dependable rookie whose only weakness is flying under the radar. And the Browns chose the guy who had to shake the rust off just to make a comeback. That's not planning. That's damage control. Flacco isn't here for the long haul. He isn't even pretending to be. He's a placeholder, like someone sitting in your reserved restaurant seat until the real guest shows up. Except in this case, the Browns don't seem sure who they're even waiting for. Shedeur? Gabriel? A top 10 draft pick next year? That's the real problem. This team has too much talent, too much momentum, and too much at stake to be stuck spinning its wheels at the most important position on the field. It would be one thing if this were a rebuild year. Let Flacco take hits, buy time, burn the clock, whatever. But this version of the Browns is supposed to win now. They've got weapons. They've got a defense built to smother top offenses. And they've got fans who are absolutely done watching mediocrity parade as strategy. So the obvious question is, why are they still acting like they've got time to figure it out? That's what made Kelce's hit so potent. He wasn't just blasting Flacco. He was pointing the flashlight at a franchise that looks confused at best and terrified at worst. Because when your best option at QB feels like a retirement plan with a helmet, you're not building a future. You're buying time you can't afford. Here's what makes this situation borderline reckless. The Browns aren't rebuilding. This isn't some 3-14 team trying to survive the year and sneak into a top draft slot. No, this roster was built to contend right now. And that's exactly why playing it safe feels like gambling with house money you don't even have. This team has real assets, Pro Bowl level weapons, one of the league's most dangerous defenses. Myles Garrett is in his prime and playing like he's trying to break physics in every snap. The secondary can suffocate wideouts. The front seven, they'll end your drive before it starts. On top of that, the Browns are sitting on 2 first-round picks next year. If they wanted to move pieces, make a splash, draft their future QB, or trade up, they've got leverage. The table is already set. But instead of banking on their momentum, they've planted their flag in Joe Flacco. A team loaded with young energy decided its best option was to strap in behind a quarterback who didn't play a down of preseason football. That's not just strange, it's irresponsible. Football today doesn't wait. The league's younger, it's faster, and the teams who are thriving don't just take risks, they embrace them. Look around. Rookies are starting and thriving. Teams you wouldn't expect are lighting up the scoreboard because they stopped asking, "What if?" and started saying, "Let's find out." Meanwhile, Cleveland's walking into Week 1 hoping Flacco doesn't buckle under a Bengals pass rush that might be the hungriest in the AFC. Now here's the kicker. If Week 1 goes bad, really bad, what's the plan? They throw Shedeur into live bullets without reps? Hand it off to Gabriel, who hasn't even been included in the conversation on national media, and tell him, "Good luck"? That's not development. That's desperation. You had weeks, months, to give these guys reps. Prepare for the storm. Learn what you really have. Instead, the Browns blinked. They got nervous, and now they're trotting out a veteran QB like it's 2013, hoping the world doesn't notice they're built for the future, but refusing to live in it. That's the danger of playing it safe. It gives the illusion of control. But in this league, control is a myth. And the second Flacco stumbles, the entire illusion comes crashing down fast. For a franchise that's been starving for a spark, Shedeur Sanders looks like the kind of quarterback you plant your flag on, and yet he's on the sideline. This isn't just some rookie with a handful of highlight reels and a famous last name. This is a quarterback who's already been under pressure, lived in the media storm, carried unfair expectations, and still showed up every time the lights came on. Go back and watch the college tape. It's scary how polished he looks. The accuracy, elite mechanics. The poise in the pocket, feels like he's reading 3 moves ahead. The ability to extend plays without panic, that's not teachable. It's instinct. But what's maybe more impressive than what he does with the ball is what he brings without it. Presence. Shedeur has the type of quarterback energy that changes the temperature around a team. You feel like something's about to happen the second he steps under center. And that's not hype. That's leadership. So why isn't he taking snaps in Cleveland? Good question. Because the preseason was the perfect time to feed this kid live reps. See how fast he could adjust. Get a real read, not just basing stuff off tape and practice drills. Instead, flash plays. A few series here and there. Enough to tease, never enough to test. And that's where the Browns may have already fumbled the most important question. What if he was ready and they just never found out? This isn't a Miami or LA media market. Cleveland has spent decades asking for a quarterback who could energize this fan base from the podium and the pocket. Shedeur might actually be that guy. But if you don't trust him now, if you don't prep him now, what's your plan when things go sideways a few weeks into the season? You think plugging him in mid-meltdown is going to help? Being bold doesn't mean reckless. It just means you believe in what you've got. And you give that belief a real chance. And right now, nobody around the Browns is acting like Shedeur's opportunity is even on the table. That's not development. That's hiding talent. And calling it caution. If Shedeur Sanders is the flashy headline, Dylan Gabriel is the part of the story no one's reading. But maybe they should be. While fans swarm to Shedeur's viral highlights and the media fixates on the Flacco question, Gabriel's just been doing the work. No drama, no spotlight, no hand-delivered hype, just clean mechanics, sharp play, and 0 complaints. And that might be exactly why he's being overlooked. Let's not get it twisted. This guy knows football. He doesn't come wrapped in the same media machine that follows Shedeur, but his resume? More than solid. He's been efficient, decisive, and consistent through every camp rep. Ask anyone watching practice. Gabriel does not waste snaps. He's put together the kind of preseason that normally earns at least a second look, unless everyone's too distracted to notice. And that's the part that stings, because Dylan Gabriel isn't failing to rise. He's just not being lifted. The narrative has bypassed him completely. He's not the veteran fallback option. He's not the next-gen brand name. He's trapped in the middle, the worst place to be in today's NFL. Not because of talent, but because of timing. Let's face it. Gabriel doesn't sell jerseys. He doesn't dominate headlines. And that might be exactly why he's being overlooked. Let's not get it twisted. This guy knows football. He doesn't come wrapped in the same media machine that follows Shedeur, but his resume? More than solid. He's been efficient, decisive, and consistent through every camp rep. Ask anyone watching practice. Gabriel does not waste snaps. He's put together the kind of preseason that normally earns at least a second look, unless everyone's too distracted to notice. And that's the part that stings, because Dylan Gabriel isn't failing to rise. He's just not being lifted. The narrative has bypassed him completely. He's not the veteran fallback option. He's not the next-gen brand name. He's trapped in the middle, the worst place to be in today's NFL. Not because of talent, but because of timing. Let's face it, Gabriel doesn't sell jerseys. He doesn't dominate headlines. He's not a flashy locker room quote or social media darling, but he might be your most NFL-ready option if the goal is to find steadiness and potential all wrapped into one. And yet, his opportunity feels like it's conditional. Like it depends on a Joe Flacco collapse or a Shedeur media uprising. Not merit, not performance, just chaos. Think about that. This entire quarterback room is set up so the guy who's quietly impressed the most might only get a shot by default. That's not a competition. That's a waiting game. He was never supposed to win. All things considered, Gabriel has done everything right. He stuck to the playbook, led clean drives, showed command at the line. But with the Browns operating like they've already picked their path, we're watching a potentially great story get buried beneath louder ones. So ask yourself this: if Dylan Gabriel were on a different team with the same performance, a team actually looking toward the future, he might already be starting. Instead, he's sitting like the backup to a backup plan everyone refuses to admit is flawed. And the longer that goes on, the worse the fallout's going to feel. Because next man up only means something if your team believes you ever were. While the Browns are busy clutching Flacco like a security blanket, the rest of the NFL is doing the exact opposite. Across the league, teams with far less talent and way more uncertainty are rolling the dice, and it's starting to pay off. Look at Jaden Daniels in Washington. A rookie quarterback thrown straight into the fire, and he's not just surviving, he's balling out. Commanding the offense, showing pocket presence, making throws a veteran would envy. The team could have played it cautious. Owners know it. Coaches know it. The locker room especially knows it. You think players get hyped about watching a 39-year-old game manage his way through another 17-10 slugfest? Or would they rather see a young gun sling it, make mistakes, and show flashes that maybe, just maybe, this team is building something real? That's what Kelce was really talking about. Not just questionable coaching, but a team building for tomorrow using yesterday's playbook. The Browns have speed, talent, and elite defense, but at the most important position in football, they're running on nostalgia and hoping no other team passes them by before they figure it out. The Browns had a chance to join the wave, to throw their name in the hat with the Daniels and Hartmans and Anthony Richardsons of the league. Now, they're looking like the team that's still afraid of taking the leap. And it's not just a bad look, it's a missed moment. Let's stop pretending this question isn't on everyone's mind. What happens when Flacco fails? Not if, when. Because the truth is, that day's coming. It might be week 1, it might be week 4, but Father Time isn't a defensive tackle you can double team. And no matter how much the Browns want Joe Flacco to be just good enough, the game moves fast, and he doesn't. The second this offense stalls, goes 3 and out a few too many times, or gets embarrassed by a division rival on national TV, the questions will hit like a lightning strike. Why is he still starting? Why didn't Shedeur get a real shot? What is Dylan Gabriel even doing here? And worst of all, who exactly is this team building around? The fans won't sit quietly. The media won't give them time. And the locker room? That's the pressure cooker no one wants to talk about. Because players know, they see who's executing in practice. They hear who's making noise in the reps behind closed doors. And when production doesn't match decision-making, confidence cracks. That's when you lose the room. You want to talk about disaster? Try asking 2 rookie quarterbacks to save a season they were completely shut out of. No reps, no momentum, just suddenly thrown into the fire after the team broke down in front of them. That's not development, that's damage control. And it almost never works, because now the bar's been moved. It's not about giving the rookie experience, it's about saving face. It's not, let's see what you've got. It's, please fix what we just smashed. You think a young quarterback thrives under those conditions? Ask any team that's ever panicked mid-season and tossed in a rookie with no rhythm and no support. The outcome is always the same: hesitancy, disappointment, setbacks disguised as opportunity. The Browns had a clean slate to develop both Shedeur and Gabriel the right way. Early recs, honest competition, and a clear plan for progression. Instead, they've set up a worst-case scenario where their most promising options are now emergency exits on a flaming plane that was already in the air. So when Flacco throws his first pick six, when the Boo Birds come out by halftime, then what? Do you panic pivot to Shedeur and risk his confidence melting under unrealistic expectations? Do you toss Gabriel in to silence the critics even though he hasn't been treated like an option all year? The Browns had control, and they handed it to nostalgia. Now they're just hoping the crash doesn't come before they figured out what buttons to push. Spoiler alert, hope is not a strategy. Strip away all the headlines, podcast quotes, social media reactions. At the heart of Jason Kelce's rant was one simple message: stop playing scared. He wasn't just calling out Joe Flacco, he was calling out the entire mindset, the philosophy, the idea that being cautious is the same thing as being smart, because it's not. In the NFL, hesitation costs you seasons, and Kelce sees it for exactly what it is: fear, dressed up as leadership. Fear of being wrong about Shedeur Sanders. Fear of throwing Dylan Gabriel into the fire and watching him melt. Fear that if one of the rookies flops, the media frenzy gets worse. So what do the Browns do? They punt, delay, hide behind a veteran who wasn't even on the radar 2 months ago. That's not a bold move. That's a defense mechanism. And here's where it gets uglier. Every week that Flacco starts, the Browns aren't just preserving the status quo, they're wasting information. They're learning nothing about their future. They're not evaluating Shedeur in real game speed. They're not seeing if Gabriel is more than camp solid. They're just stalling, plugging a hole with a stopgap and acting like it's a plan. Kelce, being who he is, didn't sugarcoat it. He didn't hedge. He didn't throw in the usual, well, we'll have to wait and see cop-out. He dropped the hammer. You're wasting time. Time for development. Time to experiment. Time to be bold. Time to actually learn what this team has. And the Browns are tossing it all out for what? A few weeks of hope that Flacco can somehow rekindle a spark from a decade ago? Anyone still pretending this is about X's and O's is missing the full picture. Kelce pulled back the curtain, and what he saw wasn't just a questionable QB call. It was a reflection of everything that's held Cleveland back for decades. Playing not to lose, playing like pain is inevitable, playing like it's better to survive the headlines than write new ones. But in today's NFL, that formula gets you one thing: stuck. The crazy part? The Browns don't lack talent, or flash, or fan support. They're not missing the ingredients. They just won't light the fire. Because lighting that fire means risk, and Cleveland's scars from past failures run deep. Kelce saw that. He called it out. And you better believe ownership heard him. Because when your smartest critics are no longer just criticizing, they're disappointed, that's when you know the roof might be about to come off. This isn't just a quarterback controversy. This is Cleveland's cycle on repeat, and Jason Kelce just put it on blast. The Browns didn't choose Joe Flacco because he won training camp. He didn't. They chose him because he's safe, because he gives them an excuse to postpone the future for another week, another drive, another failed possession. But the truth is, they're not gaining ground. They're just running from answers. Every snap Flacco takes is one more missed chance to figure out whether Shedeur Sanders is built for this stage. One more rep Dylan Gabriel doesn't get to prove he's more than the invisible man in a three-man race. Meanwhile, around the league, the kids are cooking. The future is moving at full speed. Teams are stumbling, yes, but at least they're learning. Cleveland, they're stuck. Again. And here's what makes it worse. The locker room feels it. The fans feel it. Deep down, the players probably feel it too. They can hear the whispers every time Shedeur cracks a perfect sideline bomb in practice. They can see the discipline in Gabriel's rhythm under center. And they're all thinking the same thing. Why are we still pretending this is Flacco's team? This isn't about hate. It's about urgency. Because if the Browns truly believed they were contending this year, they'd be building towards something. Not dragging yesterday's playbook to the huddle and praying no one notices the dust on it. The NFL doesn't wait. The AFC doesn't wait. Cincinnati, Kansas City, Baltimore, Buffalo. They're not slowing down for Cleveland to figure out who should be QB1 by week 6. By then, the season might already be lost. And here's the kicker. They might have the guy they need. They've just buried him behind legacy and caution. Jason Kelce didn't bring this up just to stir the pot. He said the quiet part out loud because someone had to. Because every year that Cleveland drags its feet, another prime season from players like Myles Garrett slips away. Another chance to build something real disappears into the fog of quarterback purgatory. This is the moment. It's time to commit. Pick a direction. Back a quarterback. Live with the results, but stop hiding behind fear disguised as experience. Because in a league fueled by belief, the Browns are running dangerously low. So now we ask the question that matters most. Who should be QB1? Flacco, Shedeur, or Dylan Gabriel? Let us know in the comments. And don't forget to hit subscribe, because if history tells us one thing about Cleveland, the chaos is just getting started.